Welcome back to another episode of the Pit Lane Yappers. I'm Mox.
I'm Rosie, and this is our COTA recap.
Woo, woo, woo. So COTA was a sprint weekend.
Lots of people had special liveries: Aston, Haas, McLaren, Williams, Alpine, Racing Bulls. Um,
Can I just say, Aston's first special livery being math?
it's not very you, but it's quite funny.
It's the exact opposite of me.
Um, I quite liked the Williams livery, I'll be honest.
Same. The Red Bull didn't see a difference, I'm
Mm,
not gonna lie. You know that Max meme of him going, that
yeah,
was me.
the the Alpine, they only really had the yellow at the back,
Yeah.
which it's not.
Haas was cool.
Yeah,
But I like Haas isn't anything different because they always do a special livery for
the Americas.
America. Oh, that's Pippin. Okay. Also, before we get into the actual weekend, George and Kimi Antonelli re-signed to Mercedes for 2026.
Yay!
Heck yeah. I mean,
That was probably the
honestly,
best
like,
part of the weekend for them.
okay, fair enough. But to be completely honest, like, everyone was like, oh, I don't think they're going to re-sign or anything. Like, I'm like, first of all, where would George and Kimmy go?
Yeah.
Second, who the heck would Mercedes sign?
Why
Because
would
everyone's like, oh,
Mercedes?
Max is going to go to Red Bull, but I meant Max is going to go to Mercedes, but like Max is going to die in his Red Bull t-shirt.
But why would Mercedes get rid of George, who is their only race winner this year
I was there, everybody, for his
in
first one of the
Canada,
year.
not Singapore?
Um, yeah. But that takes us into FP1, which is the only free practice.
It was pretty standard
It
practice, really.
um I will say I agree. However, there was like some funny things, such as Hajar's race engineer was like Botas 2.0 or something. I can't even remember what it was, giving directions. And Hajar was like, can we please not use race like drivers' names for these codes? Because now I'm confused. He thought Botas was on the track, which, like, honestly, valid of him.
I mean, yeah, like that would be confusing. I don't blame him. So mostly people were just locking up. Like Colapinto did. A few people were
Yeah.
going wide. Um, but there was a red flag, and it was for
Lance, yeah. Lance, I don't even know what happened, but some piece of debris fell off his car. To be honest, on the cameras, it didn't look that big.
yeah.
It also, I feel like it wasn't even on the racing line, so I don't know why it was a red flag and not just a safety car. And let me tell you, so did the commentators. The commentators are like, surely that's just a yellow flag.
Well, the note I have after this, I have everyone was concerned, and that's basically it. I
Yeah.
mean,
There was a gearbox issue for Carlos.
yeah,
That
and the
radio was
pretend,
crazy. They were like, stop, do not push, do not push, do not push.
yeah, sounds like your car's about to blow up, but
Yeah.
what?
And that was the end of the session for Carlos Sainz.
Yeah, and then really, that's pretty much it. Fastest of the session.
I wait, hang on. This is not important. However, do you know those like fun facts?
Yeah,
Um, Tell me why they said Liam Lawson's middle name was Jared.
it's Jared.
It's not. I looked it up. Liam Lawson doesn't have a middle name, but according to Formula One TV, F1 TV, It is Jared. Which, by the
I
way,
would be a
I saw that and I was like, Liam Jared Lawson does not sound like a real name. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that's because it's not.
um yeah, so fastest of the session was Lando Norris, followed by a surprise Nico Hulkenberg.
I don't know why
And
we're
then,
still surprised that Nico Hulkenberg's up there after he got a podium in Silverstone, but every time he gets on my screen and he's like high up, I'm like, huh?
well, how are you sandwiched between the McLarens? Because third fastest was Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, but that takes us on to sprint quali.
Again, like, fairly standard.
I have a lot of notes for this, but one of them was I forgot Hajar and Kimmy were rookies this entire weekend because they were doing so well. And then they like said like this is their first time at COTA for the sprint, and I was like, oh right.
Right.
Um, but SQ1 they had to run the medium tire. And do you know who was flying?
Well, it wasn't the Haas, but
It was Lewis Hamilton,
as he should.
which like I know everyone's like, well, yeah, of course it's Hamilton, but he's also in a Ferrari. Sorry, Rosie. So yeah. Also, track limits was
Oh my
everyone's
god.
enemy.
Yeah, the whole weekend as well. The whole weekend.
Like obviously the practice didn't matter, but because of sprint, it was as qualifying, it did matter. So Bortoletto didn't get to set a time, and then
Yeah.
at the end, Red Bull Racing sent out Max, and they were like, okay, we're going to send out Yuki now. Didn't send Yuki out, so Bortoletto didn't even set a lap, so he was the first one out, and then it was Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, Franco Colapinto, and Gabriel Bortoletto.
Yeah.
Um, we
No, you said Bortoletto already. You mean Behrman.
yeah, sorry. But can we
Yeah.
talk about how Red Bull just forgot about Yuki Tsunoda for a second?
Why would you not send him out? I don't understand. Like, that's
Which,
nothing to
by the
do with
way,
Yuki.
when he flew into Texas, he got held back again, and extra questioning,
Yeah,
just
because
literally
that's
racially
surprising.
profiled, just
Yeah.
racially profiled. Welcome to America, but yeah, I will say they sent Yuki out, but they sent him too late, and they sent him straight into traffic, so he just went right back into the pit lane. he
Yeah.
he didn't even get the note like the radio to say come back in. He just went in by himself. He knew.
Well, it gets to a point.
I'd give up too. So, but SQ2, um, Racing Bulls. This is when the Racing Bulls really, really started fighting their cars,
Yeah, it was bad.
really, really badly.
Like, bad.
Um, and because they were fighting, Liam Lawson got his time deleted. I think 3 times.
I would kill myself.
I think after the third time, I'd just go back. I'd be like, you know what? This isn't my week. I'll see you next week.
No,
I'll
literally.
see you at Mexico. Um, but that caused Liam Lawson to obviously get out. It was Liam Lawson, Lance Stroll, Pierre Gasly, Isaac Hajar, and Kimi Antonelli. It was not a good weekend for the Alpines.
No, no. And then in Q3, Hulkenberg again was absolutely flying around that track.
That's literally all I had.
Like, as in flying as in provisional pole.
Yeah. And then I will say they were saying because this is the session they had to use the soft tires, the commentators are like, "Oh, the Williams are going to be pretty slow. Like expect them 9 and 10, like that area." Carlos Sainz went flying. He went P2
Well,
right after that. I was like, that's kind of iconic timing for him.
I
But
feel like the commentators don't know what they're talking about half the
I
time.
agree. But Max Verstappen got pole position, baby. I yeah. Everybody knows I'm a huge Max fan, so this was a good weekend for me. If you know, you know. And it started here. Um, this was also when I think it was Max who's like, "Yeah, we've got the fastest car again," and I was like, "Thank God." Sorry, I need a fifth. I need a fifth from Max. Um, this was
I
not
need
McLaren.
OP1.
I will say McLaren has no more upgrades for the season, and Red Bull is still bringing them. Which I understand,
Well,
not every upgrade is an upgrade, but for Red Bull Racing, it probably will be an upgrade.
well, you know what? As long as we get more
Oh,
racing, no,
sorry.
as long as Charles pulls off more of what he did for 21 laps and then a bit more,
We'll talk about
I don't
that.
give a fuck. That
I
is
will.
my goat.
Yeah. But that takes us into the next day, which started with the sprint. The sprint, it was a bad day to be a McLaren fan. It was a bad day to be Rosie and Mox. Because
Oh my
of all,
god.
first of all, Bortoletto didn't set a time for qualifying, which if you don't set a time for qualifying, that technically means you're not allowed to race unless the FIA gives you permission. Obviously, they gave Bortoletto permission, but I was like, wait a minute, is Bortoletto driving? They never said, but he was there. Um, but that takes us into turn one.
It just all appeared out of nowhere. So, uh, Hulkenberg was alongside Alonso, I think.
Which, by the way, I'm so sorry. Where the heck do they want Fernando Alonso to go?
And then Alonso,
No,
no,
oh no.
Hulkenberg hits Oscar, who is then
Then
tapped
hit
into
Lando,
Lando, and
takes
they,
Lando out. Oscar gets to turn two. Oscar's out. Between turn one and two, Fernando Alonso is out.
well, the thing is, right, they were very clear that it was a racing incident. Like, it's not particularly anyone's fault.
Why are people blaming Fernando Alonso? That is my question. I get blaming Oscar or Nico because, like, if you watch the replays, sorry, if you watch the replays, it does look like they're going into each other. I do think if you watch the race, it literally says Nico Hulkenberg goes into Oscar Piastri. Like, they literally said Nico hit Oscar, who then in turn went into Lando. Fernando Alonso was just a bystander. Like,
Well, Oscar, Oscar was because Max and Lando had gone really deep into the corner.
well,
Oscar was
Max
not.
went deep into the corner. Fun fact. He always goes deep into this corner if he's on pole position because it's a way to not get P2 past you because you're actually on better, like, I don't know, ground, I guess, to start.
Well,
I will
Lando
say, however, Lando Norris' start was horrific. Sorry,
Lando
Lando
followed
people.
him into the deep into the corner. Oscar's start was really good until
I, literally, I think it was Sam Collins. Don't quote me on that. It might have been Julian Palmer, but we were watching the replay. We, they were watching the replay, and they were like, "Yeah, Lando's bad start started it all because everyone else
oh
behind him got better starts. So while they went into turn one, Lando could have been further, and Oscar and Fernando would have still been out, but Lando would have gotten away. But because he had a bad start, everybody caught up with him so quickly, and he was
and then he's
hit.
there.
Meanwhile, Max Verstappen, foot on the gas, sending it.
My other note is because they were showing the onboards from everyone else's perspective, and my other note was Charles was very lucky to avoid the whole thing
I
because
have
he.
another note. In that chaos, somebody's front wing went flying. Turns out it was Yuki Tsunoda's.
Yeah, I don't know. I
If
don't
you
know
watch
how.
the replay, they're showing like the front of the grid, and all of a sudden you just see a front wing go flying.
Yeah, I don't
How?
know how or why though.
Just went flying. So he was driving without a front wing. Um, but Lando was out because
Yeah,
literally, boom, Oscar hit him. Fernando was out for. There was a lot of damage to his car. If you saw that car, there was a lot of damage.
Oscar was also out.
And
In
Oscar
terms
was
of the,
out for suspension damage, which was the worst of the three. And
I think it impacted his whole weekend.
I'm going to be completely honest, I don't think they fixed either car.
Um, I would say in terms of the championship, um, um,
Max
I
Verstappen, we
was
are so back.
I was quite glad that it was
A double
if
DNF,
it
not just
yeah,
one. Can I just
because
say, I had the best of both worlds because turn one, my first driver, the love of my driver, dead. But then my second driver, P1, 10 seconds ahead. Um, but really, I don't think I have that much. After, oh yes, I do. But I will say, while they were doing the turn one, they noted it and they were investigating it. Ocon and Stroll went into each other.
oh my god,
Maybe
I've
Gasly.
got I've got the Stroll Ocon divorce.
Uh,
I think Stroll was trying a switchback, like a deep
I
lunge,
I'm
and
not
he
gonna lie, I
locks
don't know
up.
what Stroll was. I don't know what he was trying. It didn't work. Whatever it
And
was.
he locks
Sorry.
up, and he goes like straight across the corner, right
He just
into
like
Ocon.
and it was like, oh, his car didn't turn, and I was like, yes, well, that's the story of Aston Martin's life. He should have known that by now.
Yeah, I've also got Max versus George here.
Yeah. So lap six was the safety car was in. Max did not look very confident at this restart, which George was right behind him. Um,
Yeah, well,
and so 2 laps later, they're literally neck and neck. Um, George lunged at Max. There was
he's
no
allowed
other
to
way
do that.
to say that what he did wasn't a lunge. It was. Um, it was noted. There was no further investigation. However, George Russell did drive Max Verstappen off the road.
Okay, who cares?
George Russell, no offense, you literally need Max, Oscar, and Lando to DNF at every next race to win the championship. Why are we taking out the one guy who could take down the McLarens?
Because he has he has a personal vendetta, and I respect that.
But while that was going on, the next lap, Charles and Lewis were fighting. I will say Charles
Well,
immediately went, "Oops, sorry, sorry, sorry." Like he obviously didn't mean to. He didn't see Lewis, but they didn't air that for a second, and I was like, "What are we doing, Ferrari?"
well, if you think Charles knows he's good around, like they're both good around their track at this track, and they
Yeah,
both know that, so they're
Charles wanted
both
to win it again because he won it last year, right?
from people, everyone.
Yeah, and Lewis had the most wins. Max now does, but Lewis did. Um, but lap 13, George got a radio from his engineer and said, "Hey George, we have 2 strikes. You have one more strike, and then we're getting a black and white flag for track limits." And he said, "Yeah, well, that fight shouldn't have counted." Um, which I mean, he's kind of right. Max should have gotten those strikes as well. He didn't. But at the same time, sir, you were fully off the track.
And
Like that is a track limit. However, I do think it should have been defined as a racing incident and not track limits. However, he was fully off. Um, Also, this is the lap we found out Charles was noted for a safety car infringement, which I still don't know what it is.
well, it
There
can't
was
have been
no
that
further
important.
investigation, but it just came above like on the top and was like, "Hey, safety car infringement." And I'm like, "What for? What?" Um, so lap 16, we had a safety car again. This was Ocon and
Eventful
Stroll
sprint.
again. Ocon and Stroll, um this is where the contact happened where Lance DNF'd. Um the other one was turn 1 as well. That wasn't we got that one wrong. They hit twice.
Oh,
The first one was with Gasly. This one was the DNF. So it was a double DNF for um Aston. Also, Lance Stroll, his entire wheel was like on top of the car, and it was smoking. And the
yeah, I
commentators were like,
could.
"Wow, whose fault was that?" And I was like, "It was very obvious on the onboard."
Yeah, but well, I don't know.
But that was it for the race. That's all I will say. Lance did get a penalty, but that was post race.
And then Max obviously won. Uh,
Uh,
Max, George, and Carlos were our sprint podium. Can I just say, can they at least stand on a podium? Because they didn't really even do that.
no. I will say Ollie got a 10-second penalty. I
Wow.
don't know what
For
it
what?
was for.
For what though?
Don't
Um,
remember. I think it might have actually been the Sonoda situation.
well, they had a lot of issues this weekend.
Um, yeah, it was basically Ollie and Yugi were fighting all weekend. But it was like I think an hour after quali. I meant after the sprint. It was said Stroll was going to have a 5 place grid penalty for causing a collision with another driver. We were all expecting that. I feel like anyone with eyes could tell
Yeah,
Stroll was gonna get a
at
penalty. We
fault.
just didn't know which one. Um, but that was the sprint. McLaren and Aston Martin had their work cut out for them for qualifying.
Yeah, fair props to mechanics in Formula One because if I had your job, I think I would genuinely be at risk of
I'd need a
not being here
traveling
anymore.
therapist. I'd need a traveling therapist.
At least,
Um,
at least.
I will say I didn't think McLaren and Aston were gonna get both cars on that grid. I was like, well, Aston's obviously going to pick Fernando. He's performed better at COTA. He's doing better in the championship. They're obviously going to put him on the grid and just fix Stroll's car and just take P20. But McLaren, I was like, this is going to be very interesting to see because Oscar had worse damage than Lando, but Oscar is the championship leader.
Well, McLaren appear
But
to have completely fucking forgotten that. So,
they did get both cars fixed. Fully, I don't know, but it's just rumor and speculation. But that takes us into qualifying. So Q1, there was a yellow flag to a red flag pretty quickly, and Isaac Hadjar crashed. Um, it definitely looked and sounded worse than it was apparently, but
it
it
just
was
seemed to
scary.
I don't know, like jump and then he
I
went
also
into the
like
wall.
I think it also because Texas is so dry, the dust is like 10 times worse, but it seemed so big. I was like, there's no way he's going to be cleared for tomorrow. He was. And they also fixed that car.
It's like the water splashes at Silverstone that make like the spray that
Yeah.
makes everything seem so much bigger. Because
Um, but when they got back on track, this is when everybody started speculating that McLaren may have not fully fixed the cars because Lando seemed to be struggling even more than he was previously. Um, so everybody was like, maybe the car's not fixed. McLaren said they fixed the cars, but
yeah, just because they said that doesn't mean it's true.
doesn't mean they did. So, um, however, as the McLarens were struggling, Ferrari was flying.
Don't know why. Okay.
I think it's because they're just both very good at COTA.
Yeah.
Like it's a track they're both very comfortable with,
We should just
which I
do
feel like
24 races at Code.
honestly we don't really have another track on the calendar where Lewis and Charles both feel comfortable. Like
Yeah,
I
because
feel like
Charles is very good at Baku, where Lewis is not so comfortable
Lewis is
there.
amazing at Silverstone, obviously. Charles is okay
Not
at
so much.
Silverstone. Sorry.
Well, he was very unlucky this year, I will
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like I feel like
Yeah,
in Imola, Lewis didn't seem very comfortable. Charles was very comfortable with that. Same with Monza. This is
yeah,
the first time I feel like it's an even playing field. They both feel very comfortable in this track,
yeah,
so it
which
was
is
very interesting to see where they
interesting.
were stacked up.
And they were pretty similar. I think
Yeah.
Charles is just slightly ahead here just because he's been in the Ferrari for years.
Yeah, if
Like,
they had the same experience in the Ferrari at the same time, I think Lewis might be better, but it's very hard to not be better, not be worse than Lewis Hamilton. So let's be real here, folks.
yeah,
But
like,
um also um I have a speculation that McLaren did not fix the car because Carlos Sainz and Fernando Alonso was faster than both McLarens in this session, which
well, if we're
Williams,
talking
okay.
about if we're talking about Williams, I was so happy for Alex Albon, fastest sector one of anybody. It
And then he got his time deleted, everybody, because of track limits. And it dropped him into the elimination zone.
like I don't know.
So that means Isaac Hadjar, Alex Albon, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, and Gabriel Bortoleto were out in Q1.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Q2 I thought was fairly boring.
Can you talk about how there was a green flag in the a green light in the pit lane, and Lando Norris came onto the radio and said, "Hey, I need a new steering wheel. The grips are completely off."
Well, I don't know. Like listen, they clearly had other priorities on Lando's car,
Yeah.
but
Um,
yeah,
this is when the Red Bull and VCarb drivers were fighting. Yuki and Liam Lawson kind of went into it because Yuki Tsunoda said Liam Lawson is blocking him on track on purpose, which honestly, I believe Yuki Tsunoda. Sue me.
I
Um,
imagine Liam
also,
is still a little bit salty about losing
he
his
got
Red Bull
replaced.
seat. Yeah.
Also, actually, this remind me to bring this up after the race because it came up after the race, and now there's like rumors spreading. But just know, Liam Lawson, that move on Yuki Tsunoda, Red Bull has noticed that.
Yeah.
So, also, Nico Hulkenberg and Liam Lawson got their time deleted.
Yeah, again,
Um,
everybody's
Track
struggling with
limits.
track limits all
You know who
weekend.
isn't? Max Verstappen.
Charles.
But the drivers that were out were Franco Colapinto, Pierre Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda, Liam Lawson, and Nico Hulkenberg.
I will
It
say,
was a bad day to be.
this is the first time Ollie Behrman has been in the top 10 in consecutive races in his F1 career. So well done, Ollie, there. Obviously, obviously, Ollie was very employed prior to his rookie season in F1. So
But that takes us into Q3, which right before we got the green light, they gave us a little fun fact about Oscar Piastri, and that is he has never started in the top four at COTA, and they said maybe he can change that this year.
can they
Um,
shut the fuck up?
We'll see you in
Okay,
2026, Oscar. But anyways,
Oscar. Okay, listen. Okay, Oscar is an absolute bum
I want to
around
know
the
where he
American
started.
race. Like,
Let's see where he
he's just
started.
he's just a bum around Austin, Mexico, Las Vegas. Like the American leg, he's just not good at, okay? But he better be being good because I'm not having this championship lead
You're
taken
saying that.
away.
You're saying that when he literally won Miami.
Hmm. He's normally pretty
Um,
bad.
but anyways, yeah, he did not
I feel
start in
like
top four.
Miami was
The
revenge.
Ferraris were really struggling just this session. Uh,
I
so
don't
much
know
so
why.
Charles did a full 360. Um, Also, Max was reporting the track was more difficult than the day before. And then he set a brilliant lap. They brought
Yeah,
him in.
well, he's
They
just
brought him
annoying
into
like
the
that.
garage and said, "Okay, Max, we're going to do one more." Everybody else was setting up other laps. No one had beaten his lap. They sent him out. They sent him out too late. Max Verstappen had one flying lap at COTA qualifying, and he got pole position. I know my
Also, why
goat.
can't Red Bull? Why can't Red Bull just send their drivers out on time?
I don't know. You know who they shouldn't learn from? Aston Martin.
Well,
That's the struggle Aston
Aston
Martin's
Martin,
having.
Aston Martin's been doing the same thing all season, love. So like,
Exactly.
if,
But anyways, Max Verstappen was pole position. Lando Norris was P2 and Charles Leclerc was P3, which
thank God.
takes us into the race. Which let me tell you, everybody was starting on mediums except two drivers. One was Lance Stroll, who was like freaking P17, so that's fine, whatever. That makes sense. The second was the third place driver, which is Charles Leclerc.
And you know what? I was so stressed because just like when they're doing the grid walk, you know, when Brundle's on or whoever it is on track, and he goes,
It
the
was
most
Glenn Powell this time.
interesting the most interesting strategy is the
Was
Ferrari,
Ferrari.
and I thought, oh dear, oh no.
Can I just tell you, I was at the bar Stout in New York City,
Yeah.
and I was talking to some people, and all of a sudden I heard was the team that has the most interesting strategy. I go, it's either Aston or it's Ferrari, and they say Ferrari, which is starting Charles Leclerc on softs, and Aston Martin is also starting strong. I was like, I told you it was those two teams. Those two teams are the ones that always have a weird strategy for no reason. Um, but it paid off. It worked.
Thank. Let's get into it. I
Um,
have
so, um,
the start.
a little fun fact, right? While they were doing the formation lap, was only 2 out of 7 of the last starts here. The leader has kept the lead both, and both times were Max Verstappen, the sprint 2024 and the sprint this year, 2025. And guess
So
what? He kept it again.
so
Um,
Max and Charles both had really good starts.
Also, Max does something. He does it every single year on all the American tracks. I don't know why, but the driver that's right behind him, whether he's starting 10 or 1, um, I feel bad for it because he goes to the side of his box and he points it as far in the direction towards the person behind him as possible. So he will be driving as soon as it starts towards that driver. So that driver has to slow down or have a slow start to basically not collide into Max Verstappen and cause a racing incident, which is something he's been doing since he was about 18 years old on the track. So this is not something new. I do feel like people on Twitter were like, oh my gosh, he's doing this because it's Lando. I'm like, no, he's been doing this for years. You want to know why? Because it was a Daniel
Well,
Ricciardo move.
Lando, yeah, Lando
Um,
did not have such a good start, and
Charles Leclerc You know how
You
like
rock
earlier in the
my
season,
world.
you know how Charles Leclerc, in the earlier in the season, I was like, Charles Leclerc can't defend to save his life. I retract that statement because oh my goodness, um, there was a lot happening though. Oscar Piastri overtook George Russell. Alex Albon dropped to last. Yuki Tsunoda had the best start on the grid. He went up three within turn one. And Carlos Sainz was against Ollie Behrman. It was a clean fight, but it was a very good fight. Um,
Lewis also overtook George, so George went down two. Mm,
all I'm saying. Anyways, then started the fight. So Charles had soft tires, which means he had the better start, the better grip. Of course, he was going to
wait,
always overtake
wait a
Lando.
minute. There's a very important fact that we're missing. They were used soft tires. They weren't
Six
fresh.
laps. But the soft tires, used or new, were always going to have the better start. That's what everybody said. They knew Charles was probably going to overtake somebody on medium tires. The big thing was Charles was going to have to pit at like lap 8 because these were used and they were expecting it to be around lap 16 when people on softs would have to pit. So they were like, he's got like 8 laps to keep Lando behind him. They were like, Lando just shouldn't fight. Just let him go. Lap 3, Lando was right against Charles Leclerc. Um, Lando did try to overtake Charles at this lap. It didn't stick. They were kind of doing like a corkscrew maneuver,
Yeah, so I think Lando was attempting to go round the outside,
but it was like
and
sort of the chicaney kind of. So he
yeah,
went on
and
the outside, and
Charles,
then Charles was on the inside, and then it was a very cool move, choreographed move, even though it wasn't choreographed. It could have been like it was very cool.
yeah,
But while that was going on, there was a note for Alex Albon and Gabriel Bortoleto. Um, their collision was noted earlier on, and I didn't even know they had a collision. Never was told. They just said car 23 and car 5 um,
yeah.
collision incident. No further investigation. And I was like, I didn't even know they had a collision.
I think
Um,
that was maybe what the double yellow was, because there was a very brief double yellow flag, and
I thought it was Fernando Alonso.
I don't know why. Like they never said what the yellow flag was for, but you know,
Well, it's probably that one. And then lap 7, mind you, this whole Lando and Charles fight was going on, but they weren't going to
still.
just stay on that fight.
I would like to remind everybody that Lando Norris is in the car that has just won the Constructors' Championship. And Charles is in a car that has less Constructors' points than Oscar Piastri.
Anyways, lap 7, Kimi Antonelli went off the track, and I was like, oh, he lost
Well, they
grip.
said
And
it.
then they said a replay. Carlos Sainz basically tried to commit child murder.
Yeah,
Um,
and Signs was like stopped at the side,
yeah.
like
Um, and yeah, Carlos basically just went right into Kimi Antonelli, spun him, and then DNF'd.
yeah, whatever.
Which brought
Oscar
out
Carlos
virtual
picks a
safety car.
rookie. Carlos picks a rookie and just doesn't like them. Okay.
I will say, however, it was so funny being at the bar because everyone was like, "What did Kimmy do? What did Kimmy do?" And then they saw the replay and they went, "Oh!" It's kind of fun being in like a room of people, being like, "Okay, we're gonna choose a driver to support. We're choosing to support Carlos Sainz. Never mind, we're not choosing to support Carlos Sainz." Like it was just,
Yeah.
but this brought out the yellow flag, which was then the virtual safety car. They needed to get Carlos's car off the track.
Out.
Um,
Yeah.
Kimmy was still in. And
And then during the safety car, both McLaren drivers came over the radio and announced that they were struggling with their front left tire.
likely. No, that's not it yet, actually. That was later. Lap 8, which was still under the safety car, Alex Albon pit. It was 2.4 second pit stop. I wrote that down because that was fast for Williams. But the other Williams was given a 5 place grid penalty for the next race, which is Mexico.
Well, you know, I understand. You know what? I think the Spanish should have as many grid penalties as they need in Mexico.
Yeah.
Um,
But also Mexico is a track that Williams is not very confident out anyways, so just putting that one out there.
well,
Then lap
hard
9
to
is
hot.
when the VSC ended, and then lap 10 is when Oscar came on the radio. He says, "Hey, my left tire doesn't look so good. Um, can you look at it?" And then Lando came on the radio and he's like, "Hey, I'm really struggling." Um, and then Kimi Antonelli set the fastest lap. Mind you, Carlos Sainz just like T-boned him.
Yeah,
Maybe
I think.
Mercedes should take a hammer to somewhere on the Mercedes right before they start driving. That's my suggestion. Because
Um,
I feel like every time a Mercedes gets damaged, somehow they set the fastest lap. So whatever that damage is, just make it part of the car.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, maybe Carlos has a beef with Kimi because Carlos was originally going to Mercedes.
um, lap 12. This is when Max Verstappen was literally almost 5 seconds out from Charles Leclerc, and this is when Charles had to defend again. And let me tell you, Charles was 100% helping Max. It probably wasn't intentional, but Charles Leclerc was definitely helping Max because Lando needed to get by Charles quickly to have an even playing field for Max. Max now has the fastest car.
The thing
Um,
about Charles, especially on a track he's good at, is that he's completely insane. Like that is the bit.
Fair enough. Um, but lap 14 is the funny radio from George. He was like, so Piastri seems slow.
Yeah, unnecessary. If he's that slow, George, he wouldn't have overtaken you at the start.
Oh, oh. And then while that was going on, Lando was still trying to overtake uh, Charles, and Charles was definitely watching him in his rearview mirrors because Lando went off and he went track limits for Norris.
Yes, very funny. It's quite funny.
And then the next lap, which is lap 15, is when we got some of the best racing of the race, which was Lando and Charles again. This was this went on.
It was so good. It went on for 6 more laps.
It it was such good, and this is the kind of racing I like because it's good hard racing. They tapped, but they didn't take each other out. They didn't push each other off the like tracks. This is good racing, and like a little bit of damage is part of racing.
I just think Charles is so good at defending, and he hardly ever gets his dues for that. And then you, he does something like this where everybody like makes
I would
everybody
say
remember.
DC was in the commentary box for F1 TV, and he was like, "It's so obvious what Lando Norris is going to do for Charles Leclerc. It's why
Well,
Charles is still defending. He needs to do something different." And that was like, I think 5 or 6 laps right before Lando did the one move Charles was not expecting, which got
well,
Lando behind.
I
In front.
think I think again also with Charles, he hasn't pitted at this point, so he's still on like his softs are now like
Mind
over
you,
20 laps
Lando
old. Like,
Lando passed Charles on lap 21.
yeah,
Charles started the race with 6 lap old soft tires. The new soft tires, were expected to last 18 laps.
yeah.
This was lap
So
21 that Lando overtook him. And I will also say lap 21 was the funny radio from him where his I think it was Will Joseph came over the radio and was like, "Okay, Lando, we have a black flag. You cannot do any track limits." And Lando went, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I know. I know." Like
yeah,
I feel like and everyone was like, "Wow, that's so rude." But I'm like, I know when I like go over a line when I'm driving. Like
yeah,
it's not like he
but
doesn't know he's off the track.
like obviously Will has to tell Lando that, but it's obviously not something Lando wants to hear. But yeah. So Charles is effectively on 27 lap old lap
Yeah.
tires. You know what I'm saying? And then
This was also lap
Lewis,
yeah, lap 22, the next lap. Lewis came up behind Charles. They were fighting.
yeah,
I really thought somebody was going to go off. Not because they were like going into each other, but because Charles's tires were so, they looked
dead.
gone. Like
But like,
he had no grip. I'm like he's going to take out Lewis, but he was pitting anyways.
but they
So he
didn't
pitted that
tell
lap.
him that. They
No,
didn't
until
tell him.
very very soon to where he had to go. Mind you, it was a 2.3 second pit stop, which is so funny because this is when they were like, yeah, if the constructors was all pit stops, Ferrari would have won. They're really going for the pit stop like award. And
Championship.
I was like, does Ferrari really have no hope? They're just going for fastest pit stop at this point. Like that's depressing.
Hey, no, because when Vasseur came in, one of the worst things about Ferrari, other than the car,
The pit stop.
was the pit stops.
Yeah. Um Also, we're going to talk about the Ferrari for a second. Lap 26, which was 4 or 5 laps after Charles Pitt, they were on Lewis's onboard, I think, because he did. I don't even remember what he did, but they gave a very sad fact of if he didn't get a podium at COTA, Lewis Hamilton will be the Ferrari drive with the longest podium drought for Ferrari.
Well, we know that's not a Lewis Hamilton issue. Like,
I just was like, wow, that's we're giving the 7-time world champion who has all these records that stat out of every fun fact. Like I don't know, maybe if he scores at COTA, he's gonna be the first driver in history to score over 5,000 career points. No, we're gonna say he's going to go have the longest drought in Ferrari history.
everybody says British bias, but
Not for
the British
Lewis Hamilton.
British bias only really
It's for white
applies to.
British people.
It's not even for all of those. I'll be
But,
honest.
the next lap, which was lap 27, this is when Max first came on the radio, and he's like, "My tires are being a little tricky." Um, and this is kind of when the pit stops were kind of coming into play for like the top six.
Yeah.
They were asking Max, like,
McLaren.
"Okay, like, can you go?" McLaren then asks Oscar, like, "Could you go to the
Well,
end on softs?" And he was like, it's gonna be very difficult." He had
McLaren
more than
pit
30
Lando.
laps. No,
McLaren
they didn't
pit.
lap him yet.
No,
They
they
didn't
pit
pit him yet.
Lando in response to Charles.
No, they didn't.
Yes, they did.
No, because Charles was lap 22. They didn't pit Lando until lap 33.
Are you sure?
Yes. So lap 30, Yuki pit. He was the first one of like the top 5 teams. That was a 3.4, and I was like, this is not going to go well. Mind you, because McLaren has been having a fast and a slow pit stop. And it looked like they were going to give Oscar the first one. This is when it came into conversation with Oscar, which once again, why are we asking the driver strategies while they're trying to drive? But they were like, so do you want to try to undercut George in the pit stop or let him go first? And then we're going to try to fight it on track. And Oscar went, I want to go first.
Well,
So,
yeah.
obviously he was going to undercut him. So then the next lap he pit. That was a 2.3, and I was like, uh oh. So sorry to the Orlando people. He's going to have a slow pit stop. Um, but before that, lap 32, Lewis pit. That was a 2.6. And this was also when the gap between Lando and Max moved up to over 10 seconds. Um, and then lap 33 is when Lando pit. It was a 3.8, I believe. I can't read my own handwriting. It's a 3.8, which is slow for McLaren. Once again, the second pit stop is slow. They're really keeping up with that tradition. And this was also when Max pit, which was a 2.6. The Red Bull pit stop, kind of an amazing choreographed dance. Like, it was gorgeous.
Well, that's how pit stops were supposed to be.
I know, but let's think about the pit stops recently.
Yeah, I know.
Seeing a
But
good pit stop, you're like, thank God. Um, okay, and then this is a few laps later was when Ollie and Yuki got into a little bit of a tiff. Um,
yeah,
and Ollie Berman spun, and Ollie came on the radio and goes, "He's moving into braking," and Yuki was like, "He's gone into me." Um, Ollie Behrman, I have some words for you. Maybe we shouldn't comment on people's family lives. Maybe we should keep it
yeah,
about racing, not family lives and
and
how they're brought up.
and the way he was talking post race was kind of like
All I have to say is Joe
talking
Guanyu was great.
talking about Yuki. He's putting Yuki's career at risk the way he is trying to talk, which is not something we do. Like no other driver talks about other people like that. Even like George and Matt.
But because of Lando and Charles's pit stops, this made them fight again. We got another on track battle, and let me tell you,
It was good.
it
I
was amazing.
don't.
I will say though, 7 laps after he pit, Lando came onto the radio. Meanwhile, he was on soft tires. He's like, "Yeah, my tires are gone." 7 laps in, I was like, "Wait a minute." Charles Leclerc is kind of a tire whisperer,
Kind of.
but I will say also the soft tires had, I don't know how to explain it, but they had a good window at the beginning. Then they were kind of bad, and then they got kind of came back to
I
life.
did. Did they have a good window at the beginning, or did Charles just bait everyone into going on softs?
Fair enough too. Also, this is kind of the time everybody got a black and white flag. Bortoletto got one, Albon got one, Kimi Antonelli got one. Um, Somebody else got one. Did I even write it down? It was like somebody that was like one of the Alpines, I think. But like everybody was
Oh,
getting black and white flags at this point. We'll get there to the Alpine part. But GP came onto the radio when Lando started complaining about the tires, and he's like, "Hey Max, so Lando is complaining that his tires are gone. 7 laps in, please manage your tires." Max didn't reply. He didn't need to reply because 2 laps later he came onto the radio and he goes, "Suddenly I have no grip and I'm sliding everywhere." If you could see the fear in my eyes,
not while Charles is still P2, because
the
Charles.
fear in my ears, I'm in my eyes, not my ears.
Well, the thing is, right, with this whole Charles and Norris secondary battle,
I
why was Lando doing exactly what he had done the first
I know.
time when he couldn't
Well,
pass him
because
before?
it's okay. We can critique all we want. I will say I would probably do the same thing, but yeah. However, I will also say we didn't hear the whole conversation. However, lap 46, Lando came onto the radio again. I am having a feeling Will Joseph asked, like, is there a reason you're not passing Charles yet. We really need to get the Red Bull. And they just didn't air that because Lando came on the radio and he goes, yeah, I'm just slow. I've got no grip. And Will Joseph was like, you know what? It's okay. Take a few laps, try it again. So basically, my understanding, and Will Joseph also told Lando to slow down because there was nobody behind him for 12 seconds, mind you. Uh, the top three were in their own freaking world. But I feel like a lot of McLaren fans have been saying this entire season the McLarens are really bad in dirty air.
Yeah.
Really bad. So riding right behind Charles Leclerc, of course Lando Norris is going to have no grip, and be slow because he's in dirty air. So Will Joseph staying calm and being like, okay, take a
I
few
feel
seconds,
like
take it back,
that.
then try again is like, that's why Will Joseph is getting paid a lot of money. Because I'd be like, sir, you're in the car. What do you want me to do about it?
Yeah. I
I'd be
feel
like, just
like
freaking overtake him. Just hello.
McLaren. There are a few tracks where McLaren strategists just absolutely fail to consider that Charles is an absolute demon around that track, or
Yeah.
like
I feel like
ju-
also like Charles on certain tracks is just like I don't know what overcomes him, but he's fantastic. But so like nobody's really considering that. But like if it was Max, they'd be like, okay, Max, you know it's Max, you know he's gonna do something. Whereas
and
like Charles, they're just like try to overtake him.
I think because the Ferrari's been pretty consistently bad,
Yeah.
right? I think it's somewhat more impressive.
Yeah, I agree. I will say, um, watching Lando overtake Charles for a second time, that overtake, I know you don't like him. That overtake was kind of gorgeous.
No, it was very
I
good.
love
It
me
was
a good
very good.
overtake.
But
This is
I
also
had hopium. I had hopium.
I will also say this is when Brian came onto the radio to Charles and was like, "Hey, stay close, because he has 3 strikes. So if you freak him out, he'll go off the track." And I was like, "That is dirty, and I love it."
But also, I think Charles's tires were again struggling. So,
And then,
like, once Lando
yeah,
had overtaken him, it was game over.
and then the Alpines got into it.
Bear in mind, the
This
Alpines
is
are
the
running.
18 and 17. Franco Colapinto has Gabriel Bortoleto like right behind him. Franco
Yeah.
tries to overtake Pierre.
He gets a
His
message on the
radio engineer
radio.
gets a message, says, "Hey, we're gonna hold position." And Franco goes, "What? He's so slow though." Um, Franco took it into his own hands and overtook Pierre anyways. Honestly, goated behavior.
They,
I would
I
too.
will
And
point
then
out, Pierre was slow because he was managing his tires anyway.
he was being told let go. So
Yeah.
Um, and then the next day, Alpine put out a statement saying, "We take orders very seriously, and there will be repercussions." Brother, this
But
was P17 and 18. Let's be for real. There wasn't even a point involved.
we take team orders very seriously. Could it be McLaren?
Couldn't be for Jack Doohan, could it?
But like, why? How are Alpine taking team orders orders more seriously than the championship leaders?
Anyways, as that was going on, they went back to the front of the grid, and Max had already taken the checkered flag at this point. So did Lando, and so did Charles. However, P4 was still up for debate. It was Lewis Hamilton gaining on Oscar Piastri, and let me tell you, I really thought he was going to overtake him.
I was
It
scared.
was literally to the checkered flag. I was like, Oscar
This is
kept
not
P4.
the this is not the 44-81 I wanted.
But it was a good battle. I really like those kind of battles. Yeah, but Max Verstappen wins COTA. He scored 33 out of 33 points possible that weekend. Do you know that? He scored
I didn't know that.
every single point possible. Goated.
The championship lead is now, so Oscar is now only ahead of Lando by 14 points. So Oscar, if you're listening, lock the fuck in. Hattie,
Max
if you see this,
Verstappen.
tell him that.
Max Verstappen. I know you saw my TikTok because I made a TikTok saying there's absolutely no driver combination with a number that's going to be more iconic than MV1. So I don't want to say goodbye to it. And he locked in and he's been winning ever since. I know you watched something. Lock
I
in.
know. But
I would rather. Sorry.
driver of the day was Charles, deservedly
Duh.
so.
Duh. I did vote for Fernando Alonso. However, I knew everybody else was going to be voting for Charles, so I was just going to throw my vote in there for Fernando Alonso. Um, yeah. So, who was your winner and who was your loser?
My winner was Charles. Like, he's had a bad season really, and
Bad
this must have
season. He
been.
was still in contention for the freaking championship until this race.
Yeah, we all know that was a lie. Like, there's no, that wasn't gonna happen. Um, but like, this must have been good for him, and it was really nice to see some like actual racing. You know what I mean? Like good defending, and yeah, I think my loser would be Oscar.
My winner is Max because Max Verstappen track dominance is so back. Thank God. And then my loser is probably going to be Alpine because what do you mean you were fighting for P17 and P18 and there's repercussions for that?
Team orders for P17. You're seven
Wow.
positions out of the points.
Yeah.
I don't understand it.
Um Also that cooldown room, awkwardest cooldown room I've ever seen in my life. Um
It would be nice if it was easy. What do you
I just
mean?
I which like honestly Max cannot judge because he did have the easiest race of his life of this season.
But you can
But
tell
like
that Charles and Max wanted to be racing each other.
yeah, it was just yeah. Anyways, that was COTA. Next
See
is
you,
Mexico, which is in 2 days.
and Pato Award will be in Lando Norris's car.
There are, I think
But
there's 9.
did you know that this means that Oscar Piastri is the only title contender who won't be in his car for the first practice of Abu Dhabi?
Oh,
I think I'm going to have to kill somebody.
well, we will see you for Mexico.
Yes. See you then.
Bye.